I found out about the family reunion through Facebook. Isn't that something? Scrolling through my phone on a quiet Sunday morning, drinking my coffee like always. And there it was. A picture of my family, my whole family, all of them smiling under a big white tent with a banner that said, Johnson Family Reunion, 2023. At first, I thought maybe Facebook was playing tricks on me. You know how it sometimes brings up old memories? So I tapped on it, expecting it to say, 1 year ago today. But it didn't. It was posted just yesterday. There they were, my son, my daughter, my grandkids, even my sister and her husband, all of them in one place, all of them together. And not one of them had told me. My hands froze right there on the screen. My coffee had gone cold, but I didn't even notice. The house was so quiet, you could hear the hum of the refrigerator. I zoomed in on the photo, one face at a time. My daughter, laughing with her hand on her husband's shoulder. My son flipping burgers on the grill. My little grandkids running around with ice cream cones melting down their arms. And me? Nowhere. My heart sank. I scrolled down, thinking maybe I'd missed a message or an invite somewhere. But no, just comments. Dozens of them. What a beautiful family. Looks like everyone had such a great time. And right there, someone had commented, "Where's your mom? She always makes the best potato salad." And my daughter had replied, "Oh, she wasn't feeling up to it this year. Wasn't feeling up to it." I set my phone down on the table and just stared out the window. The morning light was hitting the fence in that soft way it does when the sun's not too high yet. Usually I love mornings like that. Peaceful, familiar. But that day, everything just felt wrong. I wasn't sick. I wasn't tired. Nobody had called, nobody had asked. I didn't even know it was happening. I felt this strange kind of emptiness settle in, like a hole opening in my chest. I'd always been the one who organized those reunions, the one who sent the group texts, made the calls, planned the menu, made sure everyone felt welcome. For years, my house had been the gathering spot, the place where people came to laugh, eat, catch up. And now they'd done it all, without me. I tried to tell myself maybe it was an accident. Maybe someone forgot to add me to the message thread. Maybe they assumed I was busy. But the truth was sitting right there in front of me, staring back from that smiling Facebook post. They hadn't forgotten. They'd chosen. It took me a few minutes to get up from that chair. I felt weak all of a sudden. Not the kind of weak you fix with rest, but the kind that comes from deep inside your heart. I walked over to the counter, poured out the cold coffee, and tried to breathe. I thought about calling my daughter, but my hands were shaking too much. You spend your whole life raising your kids, loving them, sacrificing for them. And you think that bond will always protect you, that you'll always belong somewhere. But at that moment, I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. I sat on the couch and stared at the old family photo hanging above the TV. It was from another reunion, maybe 10 years ago. I could still remember that day. The smell of barbecue, the sound of laughter. My husband teasing me for overcooking the corn. Everyone had looked so happy. And now here I was, on the outside looking in. I didn't even realize I was crying until a tear rolled down my cheek and landed on my lap. I wiped it away, then another and another, and then I stopped. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't want to give them more of my heart than they'd already taken. By the afternoon, I couldn't sit still anymore. The idea of them all laughing together, my family, without me, it ate at me. I grabbed my keys, put on my old cardigan, and decided to drive by the park. I told myself I just wanted to see. That's all, just to see it with my own eyes. The drive felt endless, even though the park was only 15 minutes away. My heart pounded the whole time. I didn't know what I'd do when I got there. If I'd park or if I'd just turn around. When I pulled up, my hands were sweating on the steering wheel. There they were, balloons tied to the tables, music playing, the smell of grilled burgers in the air. kids running around, faces I recognized and loved. And none of them had even looked around to notice I wasn't there. I parked across from the field, rolled my window down just a bit, and listened. Laughter, music, my grandson shouting something about the water balloons. I sat there for what felt like forever, trying to make sense of it all. How could they, after everything I'd done for them, after all the years of being there? Every birthday, every scraped knee, every late-night call when they needed me. And now, this. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, tears blurring my vision. I could see my daughter walk past, holding a big bowl of potato salad, my potato salad recipe, the same one I'd taught her when she was just 16. I laughed bitterly to myself. She even used my old green bowl, the one I gave her last year. Something inside me broke a little then. I wanted to get out of the car, to walk right over and ask why, to demand the truth, but my legs wouldn't move. My throat felt tight, like words would come out but never reach anyone. Then my phone buzzed, a message from my neighbor, Carol. She wrote, "Just saw the pictures. You look great, hun. So happy your family all came together again." I stared at that message for a long time. I wanted to tell her I wasn't there, that I hadn't even been invited, but I couldn't. I didn't want anyone to know how deeply unwanted I'd been made to feel. So I just replied, "Yes, it looked like a lovely day." I sat there until the sun started to dip. Then I finally started the car and drove home. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on me. When I got home, the house felt too quiet, too still. I walked past the living room, past the kitchen, and straight into my bedroom. I sat down on the edge of the bed and took a deep breath that didn't feel like it reached my lungs. That's when I saw it. An old shoebox tucked under my nightstand. Inside were pictures from past reunions. Pictures of everyone laughing, smiling, hugging. Pictures of me, right there in the middle. I held one up. Me, my husband, and both kids sitting under that same white tent. He had his arm around me, and I was holding a plate of ribs, laughing like life would always stay that way. I looked at that picture for a long time before whispering to it, "You'd be so disappointed in them, Tom." Tom, my husband, he passed away 7 years ago, and ever since then, I guess I'd been the one trying to hold everything together. The glue, the bridge, the one who never let anyone drift too far apart. But now it felt like they'd taken that bridge and burned it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that Facebook post again. The smiles, the laughter, the lies behind, "She wasn't feeling up to it." I turned over, pulled the blanket up to my chin, and whispered into the dark, "I was up to it. You just didn't want me there." And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt truly alone. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I hadn't slept much anyway. The sun was barely out, just a soft gray light slipping through the curtains. I sat up in bed and stared at the clock. 6:14 a.m. I don't know what made me do it, but I decided I couldn't let it sit like this. I couldn't just go on pretending like nothing happened. They'd had that reunion without me, my family, and I needed to know why. I made myself a cup of coffee, but it didn't taste right. Nothing did. I sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand, staring at my daughter's name on the screen. My finger hovered over the call button for what felt like forever. When I finally pressed it, my heart was pounding so loud I could hear it. It rang 3 times before she picked up. "Hey, Mom," she said, cheerful, like nothing was wrong. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I saw some pictures on Facebook." There was a pause, a long one. "Oh," she finally said, her voice quieter now. "You saw those?" "Yes," I said. "I saw the reunion. Looked like everyone was there." "Yeah, it was. It was just something small," she said quickly. "Kind of last minute." "Last minute?" I asked. "It looked pretty planned to me. You had banners, shirts, matching cups," she sighed. Mom, it just sort of came together, okay? We didn't want to stress you out. You've been tired lately." "Tired?" I repeated, almost laughing. "You didn't even ask how I was feeling. You just decided for me." Her silence told me everything I needed to know. "Sweetheart," I said softly. "You could have told me. You could have invited me. Even if I didn't stay long, I would have come. You know I would have." "It's not that simple," she said, her voice low. "Some people just thought it might be better this way." My stomach turned. "Some people? What people?" "Mom, please," she said. "Don't make this a big thing." "It is a big thing," I said, my voice cracking. "You had a whole family gathering and didn't even tell me. Your brother was there. Your kids were there. And you told people I wasn't feeling up to it. Like I was some burden you didn't want to deal with." She didn't say anything, just breathing on the other end. Finally, she said, "It's just, sometimes it's hard, Mom. You always talk about the past, about Dad, about how things used to be. It makes people uncomfortable." I sat there frozen, my hand tightening around the phone. "So that's it?" I whispered. "You left me out because I talked too much about your father?" She sighed again, frustrated. "You know it's not just that. You're sensitive lately. Every little thing turns into a whole story, or a lecture, or maybe I just love you," I said. "Maybe that's all it is?" Her voice softened then. "Mom, I didn't mean..." But I couldn't listen anymore. I hung up. I sat there at the kitchen table, the phone still in my hand, staring at the little blinking light. My coffee had gone cold again. After a while, I just whispered to myself, "You always said family was forever. Guess that was just another story." I spent most of that day cleaning the house, not because it needed it, but because I needed something to do with my hands. I dusted shelves that didn't have dust, washed dishes that were already clean. I even polished the picture frames. Everywhere I looked, there were memories. Old birthday parties, Christmas mornings, cookouts, graduations. Every photo had one thing in common. We were together. By late afternoon, I'd had enough. I grabbed my cardigan again and decided to drive over to my son's house this time. I thought maybe he'd be honest with me. Maybe he'd give me a straight answer. When I pulled up, his truck was in the driveway. His wife's car, too. I took a deep breath, got out, and knocked on the door. It took a minute before I heard footsteps. Then the door opened, and there he was. My son. My boy. "Mom," he said, surprised. "Hey, what are you doing here?" "I just wanted to talk," I said. "Can I come in?" He hesitated just for a second, then stepped aside. "Yeah, sure. Come on." The house smelled like coffee and something baking. His wife, Jessica, was in the kitchen stirring a pot. She looked up and gave me a small smile. "Oh, hi, Mrs. Johnson. Didn't know you were coming by?" "I didn't either," I said, trying to smile back. We sat in the living room. My son leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "So what's going on?" "I saw the reunion pictures," I said quietly. He froze. "Just like my daughter had." "Oh," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "You saw those, huh?" "I did," I said. "And I'd like to know why nobody told me." He let out a slow sigh. "Mom, it wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" I asked. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like my whole family got together and just forgot I existed. He looked down. "Nobody forgot you." "Then why wasn't I there?" He didn't answer right away. He just stared at the floor. Finally, he said, "Look, Mom, we just thought maybe it'd be easier this way. Sometimes things get tense when you're around." I blinked. "Tense?" "Yeah," he said softly. "You get upset easily these days. You bring up old things." "And Jess said..." I cut him off. "Jess said what?" "She said it might be better to have something low-key this year, without all the emotions." I felt something twist inside me. I looked over toward the kitchen where Jessica was pretending not to listen. "So, your wife decided I shouldn't be there?" I said quietly. "Mom, that's not what I said." "No," I said, my voice trembling. "That's exactly what you said." He stood up then, pacing a little. "Look, it wasn't meant to hurt you. We just thought—" "You thought wrong," I said sharply. He stopped moving. I stood up too, grabbing my purse. "You thought I'd just sit at home and not notice. That I'd be too old or too tired or too out of touch to see the pictures. But I did. I saw everything." "Mom, please," he said softly, stepping closer. But I shook my head. "No, you listen to me. I may be older. I may move a little slower now. But I still feel. I still love. And I still matter." Jessica stepped out from the kitchen then, holding a towel in her hands. "Mrs. Johnson, please don't be upset. We didn't mean any harm." I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was young, polite, with that careful tone people use when they talk to old folks. The kind that sounds kind but keeps you at arm's length. "You didn't mean harm," I said softly, "but you hurt me anyway." The room was so quiet you could hear the clock ticking. After a long moment, I said, "Tell the kids I love them." Then I turned and walked out. When I got to my car, I sat there for a long time before I started the engine. My hands were shaking and my chest ached. But I knew I had to keep breathing. Just keep breathing. I didn't cry on the way home. I just stared straight ahead, the road blurring past, thinking about how easily people drift apart. Even families, especially families. When I got home, I kicked off my shoes, sat on the couch, and just let the quiet settle in again. The same quiet I'd woken up to that morning, but heavier somehow. I reached for my phone again. This time, I didn't look at Facebook. I opened the old photo album app instead. Pictures of my husband, the kids when they were little, our old dog. I lingered on one, Christmas 1999. My son about 8 years old, my daughter holding her first bike, and me standing behind them in my red sweater, smiling like life couldn't get better. If only I'd known how time changes things, how people change too. I pressed my hand to the screen, like I could reach through it. "What happened to us?" I whispered. And then, somewhere between the silence and the ache in my chest, a strange calm started to settle in. Maybe it was shock, or maybe it was something else. The slow, painful understanding that life doesn't stay the same, no matter how much you want it to. That night, before bed, I made myself a promise. I wouldn't beg to be part of something that didn't want me, but I also wouldn't stop loving them, because that's what mothers do. We love, even when it hurts. Still, as I turned off the light and laid my head down, I whispered into the dark, "Next time, if there ever is one, I'll be the one smiling under that tent, even if it's just me." The next few days passed in that strange quiet that only old houses seem to know. You can almost hear the air shift, the creak of the floorboards, the ticking clock that suddenly feels too loud, the hum of the fridge filling the silence like a companion that doesn't quite know what to say. I tried keeping busy, but everything felt heavier now. Even folding laundry seemed to take twice as long. I'd catch myself staring at the window, watching the street outside, waiting for something that never came. You know that feeling when you expect a call, even though you know it's not coming? That was me. Every morning I'd look at my phone, hoping one of the kids would reach out. Maybe to apologize, maybe just to check in. But the phone stayed silent, except for the occasional telemarketer or those church ladies asking if I'd be at service next Sunday. And the truth is, I didn't feel like going. I didn't feel like smiling at people, pretending everything was fine, because it wasn't. Something inside me had cracked. On the third night after talking to my son, I was sitting on the couch watching one of those old shows from the 70s. The kind where families always make up by the end of the episode. The mom scolds the kids. They all learn a lesson, then sit around the dinner table laughing again. I remember thinking, if only life worked like that. Because real life doesn't come with background music or tidy endings. Sometimes people hurt you. not because they hate you, but because they stop thinking about how much you feel. And that's what stung the most. Not anger, not betrayal, just the realization that they didn't even think of me. The next morning, I decided to bake. It's what I've always done when I need to calm my heart. The smell of cinnamon and sugar, the sound of the mixer. It's comforting. Reminds me of when the kids were little, sitting at the kitchen table begging to lick the spoon. I made 2 apple pies that day. I didn't really need to, but habits die hard. I froze one and left the other on the counter, like someone might stop by. Nobody did. By noon, I took a walk, just around the block. The autumn leaves were starting to turn, that golden kind of color that makes everything look softer. There's a couple down the street, the Bakers. They always wave when they see me. Mrs. Baker called out, "Beautiful day, isn't it, Helen?" "Yes," I said, forcing a smile. "It sure is." But inside, I felt hollow. When I got home, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address, just my name, written in handwriting I recognized right away. My granddaughter's. My heart jumped a little as I tore it open. Inside was a small drawing. It was of a big tree, and under it, a little girl holding hands with an older woman. At the bottom, in crayon, it said, "Me and Grandma." I held that paper against my chest and cried for the first time in days. Not loud, not the kind of crying that shakes your whole body, just quiet tears that slip down your face when your heart finally lets go. The next day, I decided to write her back. I pulled out one of my old floral stationery cards, the kind nobody uses anymore, and wrote, "Thank you for your drawing, sweetheart. It's beautiful. Grandma loves you so much." I tucked a few stickers inside, the kind she used to love, and mailed it the same afternoon. Weeks went by and life just kept moving. The leaves fell, the air got colder, and I started to get used to the quiet. I still looked at Facebook sometimes, even though it hurt. They'd post pictures from birthdays, dinners, school plays. I told myself I was just keeping up, but deep down, I was just hoping to see a glimpse of myself somewhere. I never did. One night in early December, my neighbor, Betty, invited me over for cocoa. She's a kind woman, widowed like me. She talks too much sometimes, but that night, her chatter felt comforting. "You know what I think, Helen?" she said, stirring her drink. "Sometimes families don't mean to leave you out. They just assume you'll always be there, waiting. They take your love for granted." I nodded. "Maybe you're right," she smiled sadly. "Doesn't make it hurt any less, though, does it?" "No," I said softly. "It doesn't." That night when I came home, the house didn't feel as lonely. Maybe because I'd finally said it out loud. That it hurt. That I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. A few days before Christmas, I got a card from my daughter. Just a plain card with a picture of a wreath on it. Inside it said, "Hope you're doing well, Mom. We'll call soon. Love, Anne." No phone call came. I set the card on the mantel anyway, because that's what mothers do. We hold on to whatever scraps of love we're given, even when it's not enough. Christmas Eve came, and I baked cookies again, the same ones I've made every year since 1985. Only this time the kitchen stayed quiet. No laughter, no footsteps, no wrapping paper flying around. Just me and the radio playing soft carols. Around midnight, I sat by the window and watched the snow fall. It was beautiful, that kind of soft snow that looks like it's floating. I thought about the reunion again. I pictured them all under that big white tent, laughing, eating, smiling for photos. And for a moment, I imagined being there too, standing at the edge of the group, holding a cup of coffee, smiling even if no one noticed. I don't know if that made it better or worse. I went to bed that night feeling both full and empty at the same time, like my heart didn't know which it wanted to be. When the new year rolled in, I made a promise to myself. I'd stop waiting for invitations that never came. I'd start living for the small things that still made me smile. The neighbor's dog wagging its tail, the sound of rain, the smell of pie in the oven. And slowly, very slowly, the ache started to dull. It never went away. I don't think it ever will. But it stopped swallowing me whole. One afternoon in February, I went to the local library. I used to take the kids there when they were little, back when story time was the highlight of their week. The librarian recognized me and said they were looking for volunteers to read to children. I signed up right there and then. The first day I read, the kids sat cross-legged on the floor, staring up at me with those wide, curious eyes. I read The Velveteen Rabbit, one of my favorites. When I got to the part where the rabbit becomes real because he was loved enough, my voice cracked just a little. A little boy raised his hand and said, "Why are you crying, lady?" I laughed softly and said, "Because it's a happy story." After that, I went every week, and for an hour each time, I forgot the hurt. I forgot the silence, the empty seats at my table, the photos I wasn't in. I just read. And you know what? The kids didn't care that I was old, or that my hands shook a little when I turned the pages. They just listened. They laughed. They clapped. They loved the stories. It felt like breathing again. Sometimes after story time, I'd go for a walk through the park nearby. There's this big oak tree there, the kind that's been standing longer than most of us have been alive. I'd sit on the bench beneath it and watch the world go by. Once I saw a young family having a picnic. Mom, Dad, 2 kids. They were laughing, chasing each other, spilling juice boxes, doing everything families do. And instead of feeling sad, I smiled. Because maybe that's how it's supposed to be. Maybe love doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. And maybe, just maybe, even if I wasn't in the pictures anymore, the love I gave them still lived somewhere inside those smiles. That night, I went home, made a cup of tea, and looked through the old albums again. The faces, the moments, the laughter frozen in time. I traced my finger over one of the pictures and whispered, "You may not remember, but I do." Then I smiled. A small, tired, but peaceful smile. Because even though they had left me out, I finally realized something. They couldn't erase me. Not from their lives, not from their hearts, and certainly not from the story we lived together. The distance was there, yes, but so was the love. Buried, quiet, waiting to be remembered someday. It was a Thursday morning when the letter came. I remember because it was raining. That soft, steady kind of rain that makes you want to stay wrapped in your robe all day. The postman slipped it into the box, and I almost didn't check until the afternoon. Bills, flyers, and catalogs. That's what usually came. Nothing special. But when I finally stepped out to get the mail, there it was. An envelope with my name written in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. My heart gave this odd little jump, the kind that makes you feel both scared and excited. It was from my daughter, Anne. I stood there on the porch for a long minute, holding that letter in my hand, feeling the paper between my fingers. The rain dripped down from the roof, tapping against the steps. I finally went inside, sat down at the kitchen table, and just stared at it. It's funny how something so small can hold so much weight. When I finally opened it, my hands trembled a little. Inside was a folded sheet of paper, and before I even read the words, I could tell. The handwriting was different, softer, careful, the kind that carries regret. It started like this. "Mom, I don't really know how to start this letter, so I'll just say what I should have said a long time ago. I'm sorry." I felt my breath catch. She wrote about the reunion, how she didn't mean to hurt me, how it wasn't her idea to leave me out. She said they thought it would be too much for me to travel, that maybe I wouldn't enjoy it, but then she admitted something else. That after it happened, she realized it was wrong. She wrote, "I saw your name pop up on Facebook that day, and my heart sank. I knew you'd seen the pictures. I wanted to call, but I didn't know what to say. The truth is, I felt ashamed. I had to stop reading for a second. The words blurred as my eyes filled with tears, not because I was angry, but because I'd been waiting so long to hear those words. And now that they were in front of me, I didn't know how to feel. She went on to write about her own daughter, my granddaughter, and how she'd been asking why I didn't come around much anymore. Anne said that every time her little girl asked about me, she felt a pinch in her chest. She ended the letter with, "I know I can't take back what I did, Mom, but if you'll let me, I'd like to try again. Maybe we can start small. Maybe just a cup of coffee sometime. I miss you." I set the letter down, pressed my hand against my heart, and just sat there. The rain kept falling outside, and it almost felt like the world was holding its breath with me. I don't know how long I sat like that, but when I finally stood up, I felt lighter, like something that had been sitting on my chest for months had finally lifted. That evening, I made myself a cup of chamomile tea, sat by the window and read the letter again. Every line, every word, every shaky bit of ink. She didn't make excuses. She didn't sugarcoat it. She just told the truth. And maybe that's what I needed most. Not perfection, not explanations, just honesty. The next morning, I wrote her back. I started with, "Anne, thank you for your letter. You don't know how much it meant to me." Then I told her that yes, I'd love to have that cup of coffee, that maybe it was time to stop letting silence fill the space between us. I kept it simple, but I meant every word. I mailed it the same day, then went for a walk through the park. The air was crisp and clean after the rain. Kids were playing near the swings, and the smell of wet grass brought back memories I hadn't thought of in years. That night, I slept better than I had in months. A week later, she called, hearing her voice again after so long. It was like a familiar song you haven't heard in years, but still remember every note of. "Mom," she said softly. "Hi, sweetheart," I whispered. There was a long pause, one of those silences that's heavy but full of meaning. "I got your letter," she said. "Thank you for writing back." We talked for nearly an hour, about small things at first. The weather, her work, how her daughter was doing in school. But then she got quiet and said, "Mom, I miss you. I really do." I smiled even though she couldn't see it. "I miss you too, honey." She asked if she could come by that weekend. Just her and the little one. No big plans, no family gatherings. Just a visit. I said yes. That Saturday morning, I baked cookies, the same ones I used to make when she was little. The smell filled the whole house, and for the first time in a long time, the place didn't feel empty. When they pulled up, I saw her car through the window, and my heart started to race. I don't know why. Maybe nerves, maybe joy. She stepped out, holding her daughter's hand, and for a second, I saw a flash of the little girl she used to be, running up the porch steps with scraped knees and wild hair, calling, "Mom, look what I made." We stood there for a moment, both of us unsure how to start. Then she smiled, and I smiled, and that was enough. The little one ran straight into my arms. "Grandma," she squealed, her tiny arms wrapping around my neck. I hugged her tight, and something in me mended right then. Anne stepped closer, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Mom," she whispered. I just nodded. "I know. We didn't need a big speech. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't need words. It just needs presence." We spent the afternoon talking, laughing, remembering. She told me about her life, her struggles, her regrets. I told her about mine. There were pauses, there were tears, but there was also warmth. And when they left that evening, she hugged me and said, "Let's not wait so long next time." I smiled and said, "No, let's not." After they drove away, I sat on the porch, watching the sun dip low behind the trees. The world looked softer somehow. Not perfect, but peaceful. For the first time in a long time. I felt like I was part of something again. The pain was still there. It doesn't just vanish. But it wasn't so heavy anymore, because now there was a bridge, small and fragile, but real. Weeks passed, and true to her word, Anne called more often, sometimes just to chat, sometimes to ask for a recipe, sometimes for no reason at all. And every time I felt a little bit more alive. We never talked much about the reunion again. I think we both knew it was better to leave it in the past. But sometimes, when she sent me pictures, birthdays, holidays, Sunday dinners, I'd see her daughter holding something I'd given her, wearing a scarf I'd knitted, or smiling with the same dimple Anne had as a child. And I'd think, maybe this is how healing looks. Quiet, simple, real. One Sunday afternoon, months later, Anne came over again, this time with a photo album. "I thought you might want this," she said, handing it to me. It was full of pictures, new ones, old ones, and some that I hadn't seen before. And right there in the middle was one from that reunion. But this time something was different. Someone, maybe Anne, maybe her daughter, had printed a new copy. And right there, beside everyone else, they'd added a picture of me. Just a little photo, tucked neatly in with the rest. I traced my finger over it, tears stinging my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. Anne smiled softly. "You belong there, Mom. Always did." And I believed her. That night when I went to bed, I felt this deep calm wash over me. Because even though time had changed everything, even though I'd lost moments I could never get back, I realized something simple but powerful. Love has a way of finding its way home. Maybe not fast, maybe not in the way we expect, but it always does. I sat on my porch that evening, watching the sky slowly turn from pink to gray. The crickets had started their song, and the air smelled faintly of the lilac bush near the fence. I had my old photo album resting on my lap, the one filled with pictures of birthdays, graduations, Christmas mornings, all the moments that used to mean something. I flipped through each page slowly, running my fingers over the faces that once looked at me with love. There was Mary, my daughter when she was just 5, holding her first puppy. Then one of her wedding day, she was glowing in that white dress, and I remember crying as I pinned her veil before she walked down the aisle. I thought I'd done everything right as a mother. I thought I'd raised her to remember where she came from. But somewhere between then and now, something got lost. I don't know when families started drifting apart like this. Maybe it happens so slowly you don't even notice until one day you wake up and realize you're no longer invited to the table. You go from being the center of every holiday to being a memory, one they might talk about once in a while, but never call. I stared at the album for a long time before I shut it and whispered to myself, maybe it's time to stop waiting. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I got dressed up. I put on my favorite blue cardigan, brushed my hair, and wore my pearl earrings, the ones my late husband had given me on our 25th anniversary. Then I went into town. I stopped by the bakery first, the one where the owner, sweet Carol, always saved me a cinnamon roll because she knew it was my favorite. When I walked in, she said, "Well, look who's out and about today. You look lovely, Helen." I smiled. "Thank you, Carol." Thought I'd treat myself. We sat and talked for a while, just small things. The weather, her grandkids, the new shop that had opened down the street. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. Someone saw me. Someone listened. That small act of being seen did something to me. I realized maybe I'd been too focused on the people who forgot me, and not enough on the world that was still around me. Later that week, I joined a small group at the library. Just a few older folks who met every Wednesday for coffee and conversation. At first, I felt out of place. Everyone already seemed to know each other. But then this kind lady named Ruth smiled at me and said, "You're new, aren't you?" sit next to me. We always have room for one more. That moment, her simple kindness, felt like a lifeline. We talked about everything under the sun that day. Childhood memories, recipes, stories about our kids and grandkids. Though we all shared that same quiet sadness when talking about how the world had changed. But there was laughter too, real laughter. The kind I hadn't heard in my own voice for a long time. Weeks passed, and that little group became something special to me. They became my new family, not by blood, but by choice. We checked on each other. We celebrated birthdays together. We shared leftovers and helped one another with chores. One afternoon, Ruth said something that stayed with me. She said, "You know, sometimes God takes things away not to hurt us, but to make space for something new." That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about her words. Maybe missing that reunion wasn't the end of something, but the beginning of something else. Maybe I had to lose the family that forgot me to find the people who still cared. Still, every now and then I'd see a picture pop up on Facebook. Mary with her family, smiling at another gathering, or my grandkids celebrating birthdays I wasn't told about. It hurt, I won't lie. There were nights I cried quietly, wondering what I'd done wrong. But I stopped letting that pain define me. Instead, I started writing letters to my grandkids. Not angry letters, just stories about when their mother was little, about how proud I was of them. I didn't even know if those letters would ever reach them. But it made me feel connected somehow. Months went by and life felt a little fuller. Then one morning, I heard a knock on my door. When I opened it, I saw a young woman standing there. My granddaughter, Emily. She looked nervous, holding a small bag and avoiding eye contact. "Grandma," she said softly. "Can I come in?" My heart nearly stopped. I nodded and moved aside. She walked in and stood there awkwardly, looking around my living room, as if she was stepping back into a memory. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know you weren't invited to the reunion. Mom told us you were too sick to come. But then I saw your comment online and I realized..." Her voice broke. I just stood there, speechless. I wanted to be angry, but all I felt was relief. That she was here, that she cared enough to come. "It's okay, sweetheart," I said softly. "You're here now. That's what matters." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I brought you something." She handed me a photo, a printed version of the reunion picture. But this one was different. She had edited it herself and added me in right beside her. "I know it's silly," she said, "but I wanted you there. You belong there. That picture broke me in the best way." I hugged her tight, probably tighter than she expected. "Thank you," I whispered. "You have no idea how much this means to me." We spent the whole afternoon together, talking, laughing, remembering. It felt like time rewound just a little, letting me relive what I'd lost. When she left that evening, she promised to visit again. And she did. Every week she came by, bringing groceries, flowers, or just herself. Slowly, through her, I started reconnecting with the rest of my family. It wasn't all perfect. Some things were still broken, and some people still distant. But it was enough. Enough to make me believe that maybe love can find its way back, even after being forgotten. And now, as I sit here telling you all this, I realize something important. Sometimes, life doesn't give you the family you hoped for, but it gives you the chance to find peace anyway. If you've ever felt left out, forgotten, or replaced, don't let that be your whole story. There's always another chapter waiting, one where you get to write the ending yourself. So if you're still here, listening to me after all this time, thank you. It means more than you'll ever know. And if this story touched your heart even a little, please like, share, and subscribe. Maybe together, we can remind someone out there that they still matter, because no one deserves to feel erased.